assist you with all of your mental health needs. Offering over 20 specialized treatments, open access, and just-in-time scheduling means that you receive the treatment you need in a time-conscious fashion. Chestnut Ridge Counseling now offers telehealth, mental health urgent care with immediate access to a mental health professional with no appointment necessary. Call 724-437-0729. That's 724-437-0729 for mental health urgent care at Chestnut Ridge Counseling. Outpatient care options include individual, group, and family therapies, mental health and psychiatric evaluations, and medication services. Outpatient care and services are also available for patients under the age of 18, geared towards youth-centric problems and concerns. Take control of your mental health care with Chestnut Ridge Counseling Services. Call 724-437-0729 to set up an appointment or speak immediately with a mental health professional.
Are you interested in earning your degree online or finishing that degree you've never completed? Take your career to the next level by considering Salem University. Salem University in Salem, West Virginia offers 55 fully online degrees and certificate programs. Learn more on how you can advance your career by earning your degree in business, education, criminal justice, information technology, and nursing. Salem has 4-week classes starting once a month. Contact Salem University today by dialing 844-462-9128, option 1, or visit salemu.edu to see if you fit within one of our 12 partnerships offering tuition scholarships.
Having Hicksonbaugh's Drugstore in Uniontown means reliability, quality, and service. Pharmacists Stephen Harper and Seth Miller fill your prescriptions, offer free prescription delivery, mail-out service, and gladly answer your healthcare questions. Flu shots, the new Moderna COVID boosters, plus Shingrix shots with your doctor's prescription are also available at Hicksonbaugh's. Call 724-437-2828. Hicksonbaugh's Drugstore, 304 Morgantown Street. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturday till 3, closed Sunday.
Your local station, WMVS.
The views and opinions presented by the host, guests, or callers on this program do not necessarily represent the positions of WMBS Radio.
The information you will hear is general information about health insurance. If you want specific health insurance advice, please call the Health Insurance Store at 724-603-3403. The host or guest may not be able to mention specific health insurance companies. You cannot change, purchase, or bind any insurance policy over the radio.
Hard to believe already. It's the third Monday of December. Christmas just 9 days away, and it's time for Medicare A to Z with Aaron Zolbrod from the Health Insurance Store in Connellsville. Brian Morozak in studio with Aaron on this Monday afternoon. And Aaron, you getting ready for the holidays?
Yeah, I guess you just told me I had 9 days to do it. Kind of, as it always, it sneaks up on me. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. You just informed me that this will be the last show, our last show of the year, Medicare A to Z's last show of the year. So I was thinking it wasn't. Like you said, it's hard to believe. It's that close.
Yeah, you guys will be back on with us on January the 6th of 2025, right after the New Year, and you got through the whole Medicare open enrollment period. And what's next at the Health Insurance Store?
Open enrollment period, we have, there's the Affordable Care Act enrollment period actually runs through January 15th. So if you don't have any insurance, any health insurance, that's the last call to get it. If you don't have any. Now, if anytime during the year you lose insurance from an employer, if you lose medical assistance, if you lose insurance from another source, health insurance that is, you can get what's called a special election period. But for those of you who don't have anything now, January 15th is your last call. So we're just kind of, the dust is kind of settling on, the Medicare season. People are asking where their cards are, those kind of things. We still have some questions and concerns coming in. And I think in the second hour we might, depending on how the first hour goes, we'll go over some of those things that I'm a little concerned about for our Medicare people, so stay tuned for that. But Medicare doesn't end, Brian, all year long. People are still turning 65. They're still retiring after 65. People are retiring before 65, need to bridge that gap between employer coverage and Medicare. And so, we're still here to do that. We just talked about, you and I, before started, we have small business, business owners who are seeing their rates go up on their employer plans. Those can be shopped at any time. A lot of times we don't mention that is a big part of what we do is help employers, set up benefit packages centered around health insurance and other benefits actually, to keep and retain employees. So, we'll stay busy. Trust me. It's not just a, 53-day or 60-day busy season for us anymore. I mean, we're busy all year round. It's just those 53 days of the Medicare enrollment are especially busy.
For the first hour of the show, we're going to do something a little bit different here today. If you normally listen to our show, obviously we talk a lot about Medicare plans, a lot about health insurance, and certainly health insurance has been in the news over the last couple of weeks with the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson earlier on this month by Luigi Mangione. Really an interesting development here, Aaron. Obviously, a lot has been brought out of the forefront about these companies like United Healthcare denying benefits, delaying opportunities for folks to get coverage or procedures for certain things. And certainly this shooting has kind of brought a lot of that out. And during hour one, if anybody wants to talk about that shooting or maybe some of the experiences they've had with getting claims denied or delayed, I think would certainly create some interesting conversation. Again, our phone lines are open, 724-438-4593. That's 724-438-4593. And I know I've dealt with that, Aaron, a little bit over the past year as well, and it seems like more and more folks are kind of having that issue.
There's almost nobody that either hasn't experienced it or knows somebody close to them who has. Doesn't have a parent who's been told they need to leave skilled nursing way earlier. That's probably the most common, Brian, is commercial insurance telling people they need to leave skilled nursing, that they're not going to pay for. Skilled nursing is a place that people go if they have a bad accident, a lengthy hospitalization, where they need to go to a short-term nursing home. I call it kind of inpatient rehab, where they're being nursed back to health so they can go home and be independent again, right? So you can go home and cook and clean and dress yourself and bathe yourself and feed yourself. And that's what we hear the most is, we didn't think mom was ready to go home, not even close. First of all, we had nobody there at the house to take care of her, and that's not a determining factor. And we just didn't think she was ready, and we were told by the insurance company they weren't going to pay for any more days. That's very common. Something else that's super, super common is being told you need physical therapy before, 3 to 6 weeks of physical therapy before you can get an MRI or a hospital, or a surgery, or being told you need injection therapy or both before you can get an MRI or a surgery. And there's nobody when we get into going over the differences between Advantage plans and Medicare supplements, explaining those things, that says, yes, oh my gosh, we just dealt with that, or, oh, I've dealt with that, or my mom just dealt with that, or, it's almost everybody knows of somebody. And I mentioned the term commercial insurance. I think it's important that I define that. Commercial insurance is basically any health insurance that's not Medicare. It's the ACA plan, Obamacare, like you have, Brian. It's employer coverage like I have, that's provided by, obviously, me, the employer, and that's also I provide to my other employees. It's even Medicaid coverage, actually, now, which are all basically run by third-party private companies. Okay, if you're on medical assistance, you either have UPMC for you have PA Health and Wellness, you have possibly Highmark Whole Care, you could have Emeritus, I think is the other one. I forget what the other, but there's a provider, a carrier. I know Aetna's trying to become one of those Medicaid carriers, that you have a private insurance company that basically has to provide, can kind of give the who, where, and when, right? Or how, why, and where, and when. Where can you get your coverage? When you can get that procedure done, and who's going to do it. And so we almost all of us have commercial insurance, with one exception, those on original Medicare. So to kind of to go back, but Brian, I hate that people are somewhat even suggesting that this murder, any crime, is justified. I hate that part of it. If there's anything that's good that's come out of it, it is shining the light on a really, really flawed health insurance, I want to say, system we have, and you can even say health care system that we have in this country, and hopefully, maybe something good will come about it.
And TJ actually had on the news at the top of the hour, we can actually play this cut again, the defense fund for the alleged killer of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is growing. Like, there are folks that are donating for his defense fund to basically allow him to have better representation.
That's disturbing.
Yes.
To me personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does tell you the frustration of with dealing with what we're talking about. But I also think, one of my theories was, and turned out to be somewhat correct, I had 3 theories of why he did this. One of which was, this guy had been kind of radicalized to believe that, capitalism is bad, right? And it turns out that appears to be his motivation with the manifesto that was found. And again, I understand the frustration, and that this gentleman was the man that was murdered was making $10 million a year, and we're all out here spending a bunch of money on health insurance, and some of us have huge deductibles that we can't, people can't afford to go get an MRI because they don't have, it's subject to their deductible. I get that frustration, and something does need to be done about it. We'll see if something comes of it. We'll see how fast America gets amnesia and the media gets amnesia and stops writing about it. I don't know, Brian, you're in this industry. I don't know what they say about the news cycle. Everything has a however many days.
It does, though, seem like this is going to continue on because you're going to have the extradition back to New York, and then you're probably going to end up having the trial. So I think this is going to end up being in the news, I think, for quite some time.
And that part of it could be, again, this part of it, hopefully, that something does good come about. Something good comes about a murder which should never be encouraged or justified. I'm sorry. It's just we can't do that as a society. I mean, I know a lot of politicians have chimed in and kind of tried to justify it, and it's turned into something that it shouldn't. But we'll see what good can come out of it.
And if you have a take on this as well, feel free to give us a call, 724-438-4593. That's 724-438-4593. You could also discuss maybe some of the claims that you were denied, or some of the other things you've had to go through during similar circumstances as well. And it does seem, Aaron, you had mentioned about some of the long-term care denials. I think we're seeing a lot of this with prescription drugs as well.
Oh, yeah.
I know the last time you and I did the show, I was mentioning to you I might have to go and get a drug from Canada because I haven't been able to get approved for it. I finally did get approved for it, and the interesting thing about it, they were denying 9 milligrams of this drug, and after about 6 weeks, they ended up approving 3 milligram doses, which of course equals 9 milligrams. So we went through a 6-week process trying to get that approved, but it basically ended up being the same thing. It was just a matter of taking 3 pills a day instead of 1 pill a day. But it just seems like a lot of this stuff is so unnecessary and gets elongated because for whatever reason, and I don't know why the healthcare companies do what they do or what kind of a process they have to approve and deny, whether it's prescription drugs or long-term care or whatever, you might be getting denied out there, whether it's physical therapy or something else. But it just seems like a lot of this stuff out there is just taking a lot longer than it should.
I mean, that sounds like semantics, right, Brian? Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, you can get 9 milligrams, it just can't be in 1 pill.
Yeah.
It's, again, and how long did it take you to go through that, and you were probably fighting it.
Yeah, wasting 6 weeks worth of time.
Right.
And then not having the medications either.
And then think about this, Brian. Think about the administration end of it, of how many people. How many people did you speak to at the insurance company?
I did probably 6 different phone calls back and forth. 6
different people you spoke to, all that time that was spent.
Yep.
Whoever administrative-wise was looking at it, and I don't know if it was just being looked at by a computer or AI, and that's a big thing now that AI is doing these denials. That's you're reading about, if that's the case. But what if it wasn't, and there was something? How many people had to look at this, and how many people had to spend time on this, all for it to be done?
Yeah, it almost ended up taking a conference call between myself, the provider, which was U.S. Digest of the pharmacy, which was Apothecare, and then the insurance company all together to end up getting something
Think
approved.
about the man hours.
Yeah, it's
right?
absolutely crazy.
At $25 or $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And how much that costs.
And it just isn't me. And think about that, too.
Right.
I'm one individual person that goes through this, and there's probably...
Brian Mroziak from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Fayette County, right? One person, one speck of
and I'm sure there's a lot of other people going through the exact same stuff I was going through.
You can't even imagine. So how much money are we wasting?
Correct.
by trying to limit, delay, deny, authorize how much money is being spent on that if we just listen to the doctor who went to school for 10 years, or a pharmacist who's recommending who went to school for all those years and said this is what you need, that's who we should be trusting, and instead we spend all this money. I mean, if we could lower some of those administrative costs, I would think that our insurance could be lowered.
What do you think has to happen for that next step to actually take place?
Gosh, Brian, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to take a politician's or a more renowned, person in our country to get sick and die for these things to change, for it to come out in the open, or I don't know what it's going to take. But I mean, it would be nice if people knew how much money was being wasted. And that being said, that original Medicare doesn't have that. So if you have original Medicare and a supplement, and your doctor orders,
they can't deny you at all.
Orders that MRI, that scan, that surgery, that injection or infusion therapy, it gets done. It doesn't go to a tribunal, right, to get approved. And, even though that hospitals get reimbursed generally less money from original Medicare, it's not original Medicare that these hospitals are saying we're going to stop taking. It's commercial insurance that they're saying they're going to stop taking. And it's because even though they might pay more, they're having to fight to get their money, and they're having to pay all these administrators to get their money. So they're paying how many salaries to chase these insurance companies to pay them, or to get these procedures approved for their patients, right? And by the time they do get the money, it's less than what original Medicare would pay them, because they don't have to chase their money on Medicare. They know they know that the test is going to be ordered, the test is going to be had, and they're going to bill it to Medicare, and they're going to get paid in a relatively timely and consistent manner. And with the commercial insurance plans, that's just not the case all the time.
And I think if you look at the whole United Healthcare situation, they had the highest percentage of denied claims among any health insurance provider in the United States.
What was that percentage, Brian?
I think it was like somewhere around 42% maybe.
Of all claims?
Of all claims the first time they were submitted.
Took either were either denied or needed a prior authorization.
Yeah, it was something around 40%.
I wouldn't doubt that up to 40% are either denied or need a prior authorization. And prior authorization is where I can't get that MRI or that CT scan until it gets sent over to the insurance company. So I'm going to tell you a very recent story that I dealt with.
Okay.
That I had sciatica, terrible. I mean, I could barely walk. I could barely get from my car to the doctor's office when I got when I went to see an orthopedist. So I actually drove to Somerset because I called UPMC's main line, and I give them a lot of credit on this. You can call their main switchboard and say, I need an orthopedist appointment. I live in Connellsville. Where can you get me in? Monroeville kind of, for me, it tends to be the closest UPMC provider I can get. And they said, oh, we got one in UPMC. We couldn't get, but it's 2 weeks and 3 days from now or whatever it was. I said, is there anything else maybe, further away? They said, oh, we've got something in Somerset. On Thursday, it was less than 48 hours, Brian, to get me in, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So I drive all the way to Somerset for me, which is almost an hour. And I go to see the orthopedist, and immediately I'm walking in, he says, Aaron, all we can do for you today is get x-rays. They're not going to let me give you a CT scan. We're going to have to call it in. And I'm not going to be able to tell anything from the x-rays, so,
It's basically worthless for you to even make the drive up.
So, we talk. I mean, he's a good guy. He says so 10 or 12 days later, whatever, I get a call from them and says, hey, Aaron, your CT scan was authorized, or MRI, I forget. I don't know what it is for that, if it's a CT scan. I think it's an MRI. I'm pretty sure. Then I had to call my local place in Connellsville, an MRI place in Connellsville, and schedule it. That was like 7 days out. Then it was about 10 days before they got the results of the MRI back to the UPMC, and somebody looked at it. And it was a month since I had my appointment before I knew what was wrong with me, right? Where if there was none of that,
You'd be able to get a diagnosis right away.
I could have gone to Somerset, and they have a kind of a neat thing. They have a campus,
yeah.
right, where everything is probably walking distance.
Okay.
Like almost everything I could get. So I went to could have gone to the orthopedist, and if I would have had Medicare,
Yeah.
or if we had a different kind of healthcare system where we didn't need this, and they actually allowed the orthopedist who went to school for 10 years,
Yeah.
who specializes
In that.
in backs,
Yep.
to say this guy needs an MRI to find out what's wrong,
Yeah.
if they would trust that he knew what he was doing after 10 years of going to school, and let me get it, he would have said, Aaron, go to building D or go to the 3rd floor or whatever, and let's get your MRI now.
Yeah.
And it's possible it could have been read right then and there or that same day, and I didn't need surgery, but let's just say I did. He could have said, oh, Aaron, no wonder you can't walk.
Yeah.
You have a disc that burst. And I actually was dating a girl one time in that situation who had that same situation. And a burst disc, it was that bad. And she had to go through 3 weeks of physical therapy before she could get the surgery.
Yeah.
But if I'd have had Medicare or this, we wouldn't
You would have
have
been able to
this
get
floods.
proved right away. Yeah.
He could have said, Aaron, I've got an opening in 2 days. Can you be back here at 6:30 in the morning to get
Yeah.
your surgery? And I would have had my MRI, my surgery, and been almost through with my physical therapy before I even found out
What your diagnosis
what
was.
my diagnosis
Yeah.
was in the system that we have. And again, how many people in his office had to take the time to send that authorization in? The people up Blue Cross Blue Shield, my insurance company, had to look at it.
It
Who
almost
gets to decide?
seems like it's obviously it's probably costing more money for the approvals and the denials going through the whole process than it would be if they just said, Aaron, you need this, get it done, let's move on to the next process with
You
everything.
would think that, but I'm going to say no. There's a reason why they do it, because it must save them money somehow.
Yeah.
And my belief is that there are a lot of people who just will say, you know what?
They don't want to fight it.
I don't want to fight it.
Yeah.
You know what? It's been 10 days since you even told me.
I'm getting by.
You know what? It's gotten a little bit better. To hell with it. I'm not even going to get the MRI.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going through 3 weeks of physical therapy.
Yeah.
Or I've already done 2 weeks of, I hadn't done any physical therapy at that point. They did order it for me right after that. So it must work, Brian. And it must save them money. And I think probably they're also hoping, well, hell, maybe he'll get a new insurance company.
And we don't have to deal with it.
And if we make him wait long enough, maybe instead of him having Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe he'll have
UPMC or something. Yeah.
And they'll have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it has to work because they continue to do it. They continue to do it more often. And, everything that you read, if you Google this stuff and read the articles, it's saying they're going to start using it maybe even more, at least before this ordeal had happened. I mean, obviously, United Healthcare is not getting good press. Their stock is down.
No.
I think other health insurance stock is down.
I think their rate of denial was like 12% higher than the nearest competitor
that's
as well.
crazy.
So I think that's what really created a lot of the frustration there. But the interesting thing about the Mangione thing and the investigation that went into it, he wasn't even a United Healthcare patient or subscriber.
Yeah, another one of my theories of why he may have done this before they had caught him and knew who it was maybe he had some care denied, or he had a loved one who had care denied, and it caused some issues, which turned out wasn't true. And my other theory was, before again he was caught, was that maybe this was an inside job, and this CEO was going to blow the
roof on something else.
Was going to blow the cover off some secrets, within the health insurance industry. And trust me, there are plenty. And I don't know if they're complete secrets, but there's definitely a lot of things that the average person doesn't know that goes on behind this curtain.
Yeah. I think you're going to see more stuff come out. The other interesting thing about it is Mangione basically dropped off the map and dropped off the grid for like 3 months before the shooting. So you kind of wonder what was going on there, because people hadn't had any kind of contact with him since like July.
Obviously, if you go shoot a guy and you write a manifesto,
Yeah.
you're a little off.
Yeah,
obviously this guy, has got some mental health issues. If you do something like that and plan something like he did, I would say you've got some mental health issues for sure. But they did. He also, where he was UPenn educated, right? Did he have a master's, Brian?
I don't think he did. I knew he was a Penn grad. I didn't hear anything about
engineering,
a master's.
and I think he graduated with honors. I mean,
he was definitely a smart guy.
Yeah. So I mean, where did he disappear to? What was he? Was he planning this murder the whole time? Obviously, it was. I mean, he had a pretty good game plan. As far as I want to know how he knew the guy was there.
Yeah, it was obviously he had to have some kind of background knowledge to know that he was going to be at that exact location at that time because he was basically camping out, waiting for him to come by.
And something that was very disturbing for a lot of people, and me too, was they were having an investors meeting. That's where he was headed to, a meeting of investors. That meeting went on.
Yeah.
They did not.
I think they had him replaced within like 2 days, too.
They did not say, you know what, guys, under the consideration, the CEO of United Healthcare was shot on his way to this meeting. We're going to go ahead and postpone this. We don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah, it was very surprising that they continued on.
They went on with it like
it never
this happened. Like this, or like this is something that happens every day. Like somebody gets murdered on the way to an investor meeting. I mean, it's just tells you what a ruthless industry.
I agree.
It is, and how much greed is involved in all levels of our health insurance industry. And I've come on this show and talked a lot about it, how the greed just even at my level with other agents who aren't, telling people who are coming to them for advice on Medicare, they're not giving them the complete story because they want to sell them whatever pays them the most commission. I mean, right down to that, we have a problem, and down to the insurance companies looking to increase profits over taking care of patients. And, here's an issue too. These guys have to make a profit, right? It's not that if they don't make a profit.
Yeah, there's no sense of being in business.
Right. And then you're getting to what most people don't want, which is socialized medicine.
Yeah.
So what socialized medicine is where the government runs the healthcare. And in Canada, how it works is a nonprofit runs your health system. It's not run by, it's not owned by UPMC or Allegheny Health Networks or whomever it is. It's run by a nonprofit, and they're given X amount of dollars to run that hospital system for this particular year. It's not even like WVU Medicine, which is a nonprofit. However, they're not given a budget, say that you have $2 million to run Uniontown Hospital for the year, and that's all you've got.
Yeah.
And you better make it stretch. Okay? That you don't want the alternative necessarily. I mean, it's this fine line here where do you really want the government to run your healthcare or a nonprofit to have to ration, have to figure out how we're going to make, X million dollar stretch for this hospital, and how are we going to do that? That creates a whole other set of problems where there could be delay in care.
Yeah.
When you talk about delay in care, they say up in Canada you might wait a year and a half to get a knee replacement.
So even though it might seem nice because you're paying less for prescription drugs, you're waiting a year and a half sometimes to have surgery.
Or you're not paying. You're supposedly not paying. Right, you're not paying anything for your health care because it's everybody's got health care with their citizenship. Basically, their Social Security card is your.
And it's basically wait in line.
For certain things, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's you could wait, or I've talked to people who says, well, I can go get my knee replaced if I want to travel to some rural hospital 4.5 hours away and get it. Yeah. Who has an opening? Yeah. So I mean,
there's some pros, but it seems like there's a lot of cons.
I mean, we've got to find the happy medium. I mean, there's just issues throughout. The healthcare system is, again, another one is our hospitals getting paid. They need to break even or make a small profit too.
And it's kind of like the whole situation we were talking about with the Uniontown Hospital starting basically in mid-2025, no longer accepting high-mark Medicare plans.
They're correct. And the reason why is because they're losing money treating those people.
Yeah.
And we had the CEO, Carrie Willits, on with us, who's a very brilliant lady who's taken Uniontown Hospital from the brink of losing money to where they said, we just need to make a 2% margin. That's all.
Yeah, they're not trying to make billions and billions.
That is a nonprofit to continue to invest in the hospital, to get, better technology, to upgrade, the infrastructure, to buy hospital beds that are more comfortable for the patients, to, open up the delivery maternity and delivery that's going to be opening up, those types of things. And I mean, there's so much that goes into this, and it's so easy just to say, these damn insurance companies, and listen, rightfully so, in some reasons. When you hear, we've gotten stories where, I've got a lady that's sitting in my office with a mass on her back, or a lump on her back, or a cyst on her back, and she's had cancer previously, and she's waiting to get an authorization to get a scan on that. Yeah. Meanwhile, it could be masticizing. We've got to stop that kind of thing.
Definitely need to prioritize some of that, because the longer those people wait, like you said, it can end up basically killing them in the long term.
It definitely could. So
and you had actually sent me a couple of different articles as well. And there's one news story I wanted to touch on there as well, but this one really, really stuck out to me, where the feds killed a plan to curb Medicare Advantage overbilling, where basically they were going back into patients' medical charts and changing diagnosis so they can get reimbursed more.
That right there, that is dirty.
Yeah.
You cannot defend an insurance company for doing that.
Yeah.
Basically what they did, the insurance company owned the doctors' offices. United Healthcare, I don't know if people know this, are the single largest holder of doctor services or doctors' groups.
And they aren't as prominent, doesn't seem like, down in our area.
No, they're not. They're not. They're not prominent here because we have a really unique situation here with UPMC and Highmark and now WVU also being major players, that they're regional carriers. They're not they're not national.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to break into their
network,
it's hard to break into their, they kind of have and honestly it's probably a good thing on some levels that these national companies can't come in here and compete with them. But they actually had their doctors going in and changing diagnosis and changing medical charts to show their chronic, to show chronic conditions, to change their conditions of chronic,
because they did a higher reimbursement
because
rate.
They got subsidized by the feds more for each person who has a chronic condition. So in other words, for the regular person, they might get $12,000.
Yeah.
For somebody with a chronic condition, a year, with somebody with a chronic condition, they might get $13,000.
Yeah.
The insurance company. And so they were changing those diagnoses so they could get reimbursed more. And the people, hadn't been treated for that, chronic condition, or hadn't improved.
And probably, I would think, they ended up getting caught due to the fact that people are going maybe to a different doctor and saying, "Oh, you have."
And they're saying, "What do you mean? I've never been diagnosed with this."
That's in that chart, and they're seeing more and more cases.
And maybe they went to apply for some life insurance. Brian.
Yeah.
Or to apply for a supplement like we have to do sometimes, and were denied.
Yeah.
And found out it was due to this, and said, "Whoa.
Yeah.
I've never been diagnosed with COPD, with chronic emphysema, or chronic arthritis.
Yeah.
I've got arthritis like every 67-year-old person does." And now all of a sudden they're finding out it's chronic rheumatoid, or whoever knows they changed in those charts, and they got caught, and it was billions of dollars, and the government decided not to go after them to recoup their money.
It was $7.5 billion, I think, according to
you and I paid for that. I mean, we all paid for that in our taxes. That's taxpayer dollars, and that's another frustrating thing about it. And I think that's part of this problem, that sometimes we just, it doesn't affect me. My insurance at work is, I'm still, paying $90 every paycheck for my insurance at work. Well, until you're not.
Yeah, until it goes up.
Until you're paying $280. Until you're paying $280 per paycheck, and until your $500 deductible goes to $2,500. And it keeps getting to that point. I mean, we're seeing that now, unfortunately, with some of the, ACA plans here in Fayette County, where people who have UPMC plans have gone up in price. And again, and that's another problem with the ACA. Again, it's mostly taxpayer funded, so you think your insurance is only $100, but the real cost,
somebody else is paying.
What's getting mailed to the insurance company is $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so you might only be paying $100, but your tax dollars, my tax dollars, are funding $900 a month. The cost of insurance too is just.
Yeah, I think everybody's feeling that too.
Is through the roof. So we have I'm involved with a 501c3, One Voice, One Community, and you guys have helped us out with that, Brian, and that we work with kids, and we need to provide insurance to our executive director, okay, and who does a great job for us. Well, he's 53 and his wife is 48. Their insurance, Brian, for the only really what I would call a good plan, $1,900 a month.
And that's through the ACA?
He doesn't qualify for a subsidy.
Okay.
And so it's $1,900 for a 53 and a 48-year-old.
Wow.
These are not.
Yeah.
That's $23,000 a year.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
For a decent.
Yeah.
For a decent good plan.
Yeah.
It's not the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it's $23,000 a year, and he's 53 and she's 48.
Yeah. And I don't see any, I'm sure you would probably have a better idea than I would, but you see anything changing on the horizon anytime soon to make, things any better out there?
I mean, they filed, there was that bipartisan bill, I don't know if you saw that, that wants to keep insurance companies from also owning the pharmacy benefit managers, which is basically a middleman who supposedly prices drugs honestly, Brian, it's a middleman for drugs. And they also kick back. This is a dirty little secret about the health insurance, that they kick back money to the insurance companies. So the retail is $1,000 for Ozempic a month, okay? And so the insurance company, if your copay is $45, then the insurance company's paying $955. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you wonder why the premium's $1,000 a month. Well, they could be paying out $955 in claims, but this pharmacy benefit manager is kicking money back to the insurance company, kind of through the back door.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily show up as profit. It's another line item.
It ends up being the whole process.
And so, technically they're only supposed to be making X amount of profit, or they say they're only making, X amount of profit. But meanwhile, these rebates are falling in some other category. And,
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. Let's take a quick call real quick. Hi, you're on with Aaron Zolbrod from the Health Insurance Store in Connellsville.
Hi, Aaron. First off, I wanted to thank you. Your lady over there in Forest Hills is fantastic.
Awesome.
She's, me and my wife had something strange happen to us. Last year, I qualified Medicare, Medicaid. They said I was okay financially. This year, I'm not making any more money, but now this year they're saying I'm making too much money, and they took us off Medicaid. So now Aaron's got to redo the whole thing again for us.
So when you first were deemed Medicare and Medicaid eligible, were you first turning 65?
Yes.
So that's what happens. So they don't catch it. The qualifications are different pre-65 to when you turn 65 and qualify for Medicare. The income limit goes way down, and actually assets are then considered when you're over 65 per when you're not 65. There's no asset limit, and the income limit is 138% of the poverty level. And then when you turn 65, it goes down to 100% of the poverty level, and you can't have more than $3,000 for a married couple in assets other than home and automobile. And so the guidelines change. And so my guess is, that's why you don't qualify. And sometimes when you turn 65, it takes them a few months for that to catch up. And so you get to keep your medical assistance for maybe 3 months or 4 months or maybe even longer. But eventually they say, oh, wow, these guys are, on Medicare, they no longer qualify. So that's my guess. Again, the income limits when you're on Medicare are 100% of the poverty level. And then you can only have $3,000 other than a home and automobile. And that would include a cash value of a life insurance policy, stocks, bonds, a CD, cash you have just in your regular everyday checking account. So when you turned over your checking account, you might have had $1,300 before you paid the bills, and then after you paid the bills, you might have $100. But whatever you give them, that statement, that's how they add up that money. So there's probably a good chance that you just don't qualify anymore.
Maybe it's self-employed. The government doesn't understand self-employment.
And it gets tougher to, prove that, and you can't just prove that with paycheck stubs like most people who are on an hourly or salary, right? It becomes a little bit more difficult To you have to turn in your tax returns, or they're expecting you to keep a ledger, and sometimes they'll actually take a ledger that shows what you have coming in and what you have going out. But it does get a little bit more confusing, in your situation.
Yeah. Okay, that's how I was wondering. That makes sense. But,
Yep.
So they take because my wife makes no income. That's what I couldn't figure out. It's like, well, why can't she be on Medicaid and I'm not?
Well, right. You're a household. If you're living together and you're filing taxes together, you're sharing a dwelling as a husband and wife or as a domestic partner. Then it's the total of the quote unquote household. Now, a household is not necessarily defined by people living under the same roof, but when you are married, you are sharing a household. A mother and a daughter sharing living together as roommates don't necessarily constitute a household and don't have to have their income provided together, or two roommates. I mean, when I was younger, I had roommates. We all paid our own share of the rent, our own bills. But when you're married or in a domestic relationship, partnership, then especially when you file taxes together, they're going to count both, and they won't say, oh, the spouse doesn't work, so should get it, and the husband's working, and so he doesn't. Unfortunately, they don't do it that way.
So we're in that situation where if we divorced, she could get it.
You are absolutely 100% correct, and you know what? And I have met people.
I was going to ask you if
I've met plenty of people that have done that. Oh my gosh, I've met plenty of people that have done that, or quote unquote legally separated and had another address. I've met plenty of people that have done it. You probably over 100, Brian, that I've met that have done that have worked the system. It seems odd to me. Seems like it would be the other way around. That the income limits would be more liberal the older you would get than the younger. Again, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Now our caller can go home to his wife and say, I think we need to get divorced.
Yeah. Don't blame Brian or I for if there's one more divorce in Western Pennsylvania. It's very frustrating. It's all frustrating, all of it.
Yeah, well, my mom got screwed on the pension. My dad was a steel worker. They were getting $1,000 each in retirement funds. My dad died a few years ago. She notifies the pension board. She figures, well, she'll get her $1,000 a month, not my dad's, and she's getting $300 checks, and they're like, oh, well, you're over 80. You only get $300 now.
I mean, it's and this is this curtain, that I talk about, that really the general public doesn't really understand how all these little fine prints work, and that we just think that it just makes sense, right? That you would continue to get medical assistance when you turn 65, and there's no class on it. It's not advertised. There's not a lot of written about it. So I get the frustration.
Okay, well, thank you for answering.
I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for the phone call. Thank you. Thanks a whole bunch.
It's been fantastic getting this all straightened out for us.
I appreciate it. Yes, we'll do whatever we can for you.
Okay,
thanks again.
Thank you.
And that's 724-438-4593 if you want to chime in, 724-438-4593. Also worth pointing out, that caller mentioned you went to your Forest Hills office. Not only do you have the office here in Connellsville, folks maybe are watching on the live stream or listening online, you have an office closer to Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah, and we can do anything remotely. I mean, we're licensed in over 20 states now, Brian. West Virginia being a huge one. It's probably our second most. Other than Pennsylvania, it's the state we have our second most number of clients in is West Virginia, obviously. And we're licensed in Maryland, both the Carolinas, Florida, Ohio, Michigan, I believe, Texas, and quite a few others as well. So we can help you remotely from pretty much anywhere nowadays. That call is just one thing that needs to. You asked me, Brian, we need to we need to make this much less complicated. There doesn't need to be 120 different Medicare Advantage plans for people. Every company should not be able to. These companies shouldn't be able to have 65 Medicare Advantage plans for.
Yeah, and it also seemed like his call was pretty confusing as well. His situation he was in, just due to the fact that he was able to get assistance until he was 65, and after he was 65, he no longer qualified, even though his income didn't change.
Yeah, income didn't change. They actually lower the limits. They don't let you have assets. Doesn't make much sense. The idea is to save money for your retirement. We're actually penalizing people for that. Sometimes I'm not sure if that makes much sense. I mean, you got to cut the income off somewhere for medical assistance, right? So that's the tough part. But just the sheer complexity, and I swear the system wants it like that. Just the sheer complexity of, people on Medicare having it, going from having no deductible on their health insurance or no deductible on prescription drugs to having a $600 deductible on prescription drugs, going from where it's a flat $30 to $45 for their brand name drugs to having a 25% cost. What drugs are subject to the deductible, what aren't. I mean, just that in itself is ridiculous for seniors to have to deal with. I mean, it should get easier as you get older. It shouldn't get more complicated, and it seems like we are making it more complicated, and for that demographic, and these are the people I deal with, Brian. If they made it, honestly, it should be easy enough where I probably am not needed.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, that we shouldn't have a line out our door until December 7th, and literally that's almost what it's like, that every chair in our lobby is filled.
Always full,
people waiting room. One set of clients, 3 sets of clients are leaving. We're taking 3 more sets, and it happens for 53 days all day long, and it shouldn't be that confusing.
Have about 30 seconds left in hour number 1. What do you want to discuss in hour number 2?
I think I want to make sure we go over a couple things I'm still concerned about for seniors, prescription drugs, the thing with Uniontown hospitals, some co-pays that you might be subject to coming next year. We'll get into a little bit of that in the second hour. And if anybody wants to talk about this United Healthcare thing, we can certainly do that as well.
Yeah, the phone lines are open, 724-438-4593. That's 724-438-4593. Aaron's back with hour number 2 right after CBS News and the local news here on WMBS Uniontown, coming up on 2 o'clock.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Cammie McCormick. There has been another deadly school shooting, this time in Madison, Wisconsin, at a Christian school. 5 people are dead, including the shooter, who was believed to have been a student.
Officers located a juvenile who they believe was responsible for this deceased in the building.
Police Chief Sean Barnes says there were injuries as well.
What we know is that a total of about 7 persons were transported from the scene to area hospitals for treatment.
The FBI is assisting in the investigation. President Biden is being kept informed of developments. Abundant Life Christian School has about 400 students. President-elect Donald Trump held a wide-ranging press conference today, answering questions about everything from Ukraine to drone sightings in this country and his cabinet choices. In particular, RFK Jr. to be health secretary and his views on vaccines.
Very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing. You're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen.
Here's correspondent Nicole Killian.
He at times has suggested that vaccines have led to an increase in autism, which has been disproven by a number of medical experts. There is also one of his personal attorneys who filed a petition back in 2022 to revoke approval of the polio vaccine, and this is someone that he still associates with. That is why there is some concern about, where exactly RFK Jr. kind of falls in this spectrum of views.
On Syria, Trump said Turkey orchestrated the fall of Bashar al-Assad.
I believe it's Turkey, and I think Turkey is very smart. He's a very smart guy, and he's very tough. But Turkey did an unfriendly takeover.
Assad appeared to issue a statement on his Facebook page insisting he planned to stay and keep fighting. BBC reporter Steve Rosenberg.
He says that this departure wasn't planned. He claims that he stayed in Syria until Sunday, December the 8th. He says that he moved from Damascus to the Khmeimim airbase, Russia's airbase in Latakia, but he said that it became clear at that point Syrian forces had completely withdrawn from all battle lines and that the last army positions had fallen.
A famous store is promising a return, as Matt Piper reports.
America's oldest department store is making a comeback. Lord & Taylor will be back online next year after closing its brick-and-mortar stores in 2021. The company opened back in 1826, but had years of financial hardships. Now it's under new ownership. Its website says it's focusing on a sophisticated range of home goods, dresses, and footwear.
On Wall Street, the Dow is off 19 points. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is Eric Cushy from Curtis Pharmacy. We don't sign every insurance contract out there. We don't participate in every network. And what we've come to realize is if we take our invoice cost on generic drugs at a fair dispense fee, we can save you money depending on the medication. No insurance, no middlemen. You have a prescription, you pay us, you're done. If you take generic drugs, this program's for you. Go to our website at curtispharmacy.com, click the Dare to Compare link, and feel free to look up your medication, see how much we could save you.
As you may have heard, WVU will no longer be accepting Highmark Medicare Advantage plans.
But at Montgomery Medical, we've got you covered. If you're affected by this change, we'd love to welcome you to our family. We treat our patients like family because we're locally owned and part of your community. Yes, that means you.
Need a checkup? Got a strange rash? Or just need someone to listen during the holiday hustle? We're here for you every step of the way. Call today to schedule your appointment and experience the gift of hometown healthcare done right. From all of us at Montgomery Medical, Merry Christmas.
Deborah Rodriguez.
A crazy new food combination is snowballing on TikTok. Gummy bears doused in Sprite, refrigerated, then frozen overnight without the liquid.
Whoa! Oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's so big.
They double in size as they morph into mini popsicles.
Oh, wow.
One fan gushes there's something extremely satisfying to the brain about the little pops the bears make during osmosis. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
Britain's postal service, like the one here in the U.S., has lost a lot of money over the years. Now the British government has approved the sale of the Royal Mail's parent company to a Czech billionaire, paving the way for the Postal Service to have foreign ownership for the first time in 500 years. President-elect Trump said today privatizing the Postal Service isn't the worst idea. I'm Cammie McCormick, CBS News.
Now the local, district, and statewide news. Being brought to you by Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning, your Bryant dealer. Keeping you warm and cozy in winter and cool and comfortable in summer with a quality Bryant gas furnace or air conditioning system. And now the news.
Good afternoon. It's 2:05, cloudy and 56 outside the Davis & Davis Attorneys at Law Studios. Injured call today for your free consultation, 724-437-2799. Your local station, 590 AM, 101.1 FM, WMBS. I'm TJ DeStefano. Sports and weather follow the news. Sentencing is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9:30 for 55-year-old Antoinette Hodge, former Uniontown City Treasurer, found guilty in November of stealing tax payments processed through her office. Hodge was indicted by a statewide grand jury in December of 2022 and accused of stealing $106,750 in tax payments between 2020 and 2021 while working as the elected city treasurer in Uniontown. Hodge was found guilty of 6 charges, including theft, perjury, and obstruction of justice in November, and will be sentenced on those charges tomorrow. Hodge is also charged with allegedly taking $112,484 from the Youghiogheny Western Baptist Association. That trial has yet to begin. WVU police have issued a campus warning after a reported burglary at a home on Belmar Avenue near campus. Police said the burglary happened on Saturday morning around 6 a.m. and surveillance video showed one of 2 suspects entering the home through a basement window. Police are now investigating the incident and working to learn if it's related to 2 burglary reports from a few weeks ago, one at Morgan House and another at Phi Kappa Tau, both on North High Street. Similar to Saturday's burglary, the suspects are believed to have entered through unlocked windows. Campus police will be visiting residents in the area to provide safety reminders to those living there. If residents are not home, they will provide written material. Anyone with information is asked to call campus police at 304-293-3136. Laurel Mountain Ski Resort, located between Ligonier and Jennerstown, is set to open for the season Friday. The resort atop Laurel Ridge then will be open every day through New Year's Day, except for December 23rd, according to Vail Resorts, which operates the site. According to the site's Facebook page, regular operating hours will begin January 2nd. Visit laurelmountainski.com for details. Drinking coffee may help you live longer. A new study has some interesting findings, and here's more from Lisa Carton.
If your morning never starts without a cup of coffee, you may be intrigued to learn that drinking the wildly popular beverage might be more than just a quick pick-me-up. A new study done by researchers in Portugal says that the drink may be adding to your lifespan. The research was funded by the Institute for Scientific Information on Coffee, a nonprofit organization started by companies from the coffee industry. The study found that regular coffee drinkers may be adding an average of almost 2 healthful years to a person's lifespan. Being the most popular beverage in the world, an estimated 2 million cups are consumed globally each day. I'm Lisa Carton.
WMBS time is 2:08.
439-2323.
For 24-hour emergency service, call us when you need. We're Fayette's Heating and Air Conditioning,
Your service company.
Be prepared for bone-chilling winter weather. Have Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning install a Bryant high-efficiency furnace in your home to replace that old worn-out system you now have. Choose Bryant's Plus 90 gas furnace or other quality heating system to keep yourself and your family warm and toasty this winter. Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning will also keep your present furnace running at peak efficiency with their 15-point safety check and cleaning. Call Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning today for your appointment. 724-439-2323. That's Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning, your Bryant dealer, Route 119 north of Uniontown, located near Laurel Mall.
Call Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning, 439-2323, 439-2323, 439-2323, 439-2323.
In sports, Steelers coach Mike Tomlin met with the media today as the team prepares for the Ravens in Baltimore Saturday afternoon. On the injury front, Tomlin said all 6 injured players are not categorized as out and could play. Questionable are T.J. Watt with an ankle injury, Dante Jackson with a back injury, and Justin Fields suffered an abdominal injury. All 3 of those were in-game injuries against the Eagles. George Pickens hamstring, Larry Ogunjobi groin, and Deshaun Elliott hamstring all missed the game Sunday. Steelers at Ravens with the AFC North title on the line Saturday 4:30 here on WMBS. And speaking of the NFL, 2 games tonight on Monday Night Football. The first is the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. We'll have that game on WMBS. The pregame is 7:30 with kickoff at 8. The other game is the Falcons visiting the Raiders. That is at 8:30.
The local, district, and statewide news has been brought to you by Fayette Heating and Air Conditioning, your Bryant dealer. Route 119 north of Uniontown, located near Laurel Mall. Phone 439-2323.
The Weather Watch is being brought to you by State Farm agent Nathan Ferguson. Call Nate at 724-438-7611 for life, home, car insurance, and more. Get a free quote now.
Cloudy, some rain developing this afternoon, 58. Showers 46 tonight and mostly sunny and 53 tomorrow. Right now, cloudy and 56 outside the Davis & Davis Attorneys at Law Studios. 2:11 the time on this Monday afternoon. I'm TJ DeStefano. Up next, Hour 2 of Medicare A to Z with Aaron Zolbrod on WMBS.
The Weather Watch has been brought to you by State Farm agent Nathan Ferguson. Nate is there for you. Call 724-438-7611 for life, home, car insurance, and more.
As you may have heard, WVU will no longer be accepting Highmark Medicare Advantage plans.
But at Montgomery Medical, we've got you covered. If you're affected by this change, we'd love to welcome you to our family. We treat our patients like family because we're locally owned and part of your community. Yes, that means you.
Need a checkup? Got a strange rash? Or just need someone to listen during the holiday hustle? We're here for you every step of the way. Call today to schedule your appointment and experience the gift of hometown healthcare done right. From all of us at Montgomery Medical, Merry Christmas.
Don't settle for a meal, go for an experience. DeMarco's Bistro and Cantina is your destination for lunch, dinner, drinks, and more. DeMarco's features not only a dining room and patio, but also a 2-story bar for your eating and drinking pleasure. Daily lunch and dinner specials means the options will never get old. Get wings on Mondays or pick up a taco on Tuesdays. Wednesdays and Thursdays are even better with steak and chicken parm. DeMarco's updates their Facebook regularly, so keep an eye out for all the newest specials and delicious deals. For those adults looking to enjoy a mature experience, apply for a membership at Styx Cigar Bar. It is the place to be. With more than 35 bourbons and craft cocktails and 50 cigar options, you're sure to find something that suits your taste. DeMarco's Bistro and Cantina is open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. For more information on specials at DeMarco's and upcoming events, visit DeMarco's on Facebook or call 724-438-1611.
It's Christmas time, and what better time to reveal your inner beauty than when the lights are twinkling and the spirits are high. Visit TiffanySmithFineArtStudio.com today to showcase the true you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Tiffany Smith Fine Art Studio.
Holidays are just around the corner. At the Big Barn Country Store in Delhi, they have all your classic favorites. Amish smoked ham, their famous kielbasi, fresh country sausage, slab bacon cut just the way you like it, local made nut rolls, their own home-style pierogies, and Amish baby beets. Big Barn Country Store in Delhi, open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 5. Visit them at bigbarnstore.com and look for their specials on their Facebook page. This holiday season, the Paul G. Fink Funeral Home of Connellsville wishes you and your loved ones a Merry Christmas and a blessed and healthy New Year. Sincerely from Bethany, Dennis, and staff of the Paul G. Fink Funeral Home, serving our community with dignity and respect since 1957.
Hi, it's attorney Rob Harper from Radcliffe Martin Law. As some of you may know, I served as a public defender for 3 years and an assistant district attorney for 7 years right here in Fayette County. I'm now using that experience to represent people accused of crimes. So if you find yourself in that unfortunate situation and need someone who knows how things are done on both sides of the courtroom, give me a call and see if we can put my expertise to work for you. Radcliffe Martin Law, 724-439-3939.
You can go to Big Box Medical Office.
Now serving number 3,943.
Or,
hi, come on in. How are you feeling?
when you see doctors Paul Hartley and Mary Beth Riley, plus nurse practitioners Tara Bozek, Jessica Reckart, and Stacy Morris, you get one-on-one personal professional health care serving the area for over 3 decades. If you're looking for a primary care doctor, call Doctors Hartley and Riley at 724-437-1109 or online at ppcp.org. Or
serving number 3,944.
Having Hicksonbaugh's Drugstore in Uniontown means reliability, quality, and service. Pharmacists Stephen Harper and Seth Miller fill your prescriptions, offer free prescription delivery, mail-out service, and gladly answer your healthcare questions. Flu shots, the new Moderna COVID boosters, plus Shingrix shots with your doctor's prescription are also available at Hicksonbaugh's. Call 724-437-2828. Hicksonbaugh's Drugstore, 304 Morgantown Street. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturday till 3, closed Sunday.
Your local station, WMBS.
The views and opinions presented by the host, guests, or callers on this program do not necessarily represent the positions of WMBS Radio.
The information you will hear is general information about health insurance. If you want specific health insurance advice, please call the Health Insurance Store at 724-603-3403. The host or guest may not be able to mention specific health insurance companies. You cannot change, purchase, or bind any insurance policy over the radio.
Hour number 2 of Medicare A to Z with Aaron Zolbrod from the Health Insurance Store in Connellsville. Phone lines are open, 724-438-4593. That's 724-438-4593. We discussed in hour number 1 on about the United Healthcare CEO shooting, Brian Thompson, earlier on this month, and some of the ramifications there and some of the denials of not only through United Healthcare, but through other policies as well. We took your phone calls, and in hour number 2, Aaron, I know there's a couple of different topics you want to touch on, and one, obviously, the Medicare open enrollment period ended on December the 7th, but there's still some options out there and some opportunities for folks even with the election period over.
Yeah, I mean, in case anybody's listening and doesn't know who I am or what we do, is I'm the founder of the Health Insurance Store. We're getting ready to celebrate our 17th anniversary in April of next year, that we find solutions for people for all things health insurance and Medicare. The show's called Medicare A to Z. You know, Medicare's probably 60 to 70% of our clients are Medicare, and that's a big focus of ours. And we just came out of the Medicare annual enrollment period, as it's called, which runs from October 15th to December 7th. It's 53 days where it's just a free-for-all. You can make any change that you want, pretty much go from a supplement to an advantage plan, from one advantage plan to another, and do all that stuff. And that ended on the 7th. And, the last few years we've been really kind of lucky because the main three companies that everybody uses, or 95% of people in Western Pennsylvania get their Medicare Advantage plans from, have been really competitive with one another. And they each had 2 or 3 plans that were super competitive, really similar in price, offered similar copays, offered similar ancillary benefits, which are the extras that original Medicare doesn't give. But this year, and going into 2025, we had some changes that we hadn't seen in a while, some negative changes. And the biggest one was companies, one company in particular, went to having no prescription drug deductible to having almost a $600 prescription drug deductible, and then a couple went from having a $45 or $47 copay for a tier 3 brand name drug to having it cost 25% of the retail. And on the first part of the hour, I mentioned that Ozempic retails for $1,000.
Yeah, it's $250.
That means you're 25%. Instead of paying that $45 copay, you're going to show up at the pharmacy and possibly pay $250 for that. And I'm very concerned that there's still people who don't know that they have this deductible come January 1st, and they've been used to paying $47, and then maybe hitting their donut hole. This year they hit it in October, or maybe November, when they did have to pay a little extra money for it, but only for a couple months. I'm really concerned about these people who have this deductible, who show up at the pharmacy and are going to be told they need $650 for their first fill of their Eliquis or their Ozempic or their Xarelto or Trulicity or whatever other common tier 3 drugs that people are taking.
As you said, a lot of those tier 3s well over $1,000 retail, and I think you look at that, and I think folks that have insurance say, "Wow, I'm glad I'm not paying that," but even paying 25% of that is going to be a good chunk.
I mean, going from paying 45% now, again, there's this $2,000 cap on what you can spend for the year, but still, to have to come up with $600 in January, or even $250 for 5 months or 6 months.
Yeah, when you're not used to that.
You're not used to that, that's going to be a big deal for some people. There were also a couple plans that had lower hospital copays. That one plan in particular, very popular, probably one of the top, I'm going to say one of the 3 most popular plans in Southwest Pennsylvania, that was a 0 premium, that had a maximum hospital copay of $600 for a 4-day stay or longer, and that same plan for a 6-day stay or longer now is going to be over $1,800 for a hospital stay. So a really big deal. And again, these are things that I'm a little concerned about, that people don't know about. So if this is something that you didn't pay attention to, and this is something that this is where I really think it's important for younger people to get involved with their parents or aunts or uncles or even their neighbors or people you go to church with. If you go to church with people that are in their late 70s, early 80s, or 90s, you really need to make sure what plan they have, if they understand that this is going to be happening.
Because a lot of people are just going to stick with whatever they end up having the year before.
This is part of that confusion, Brian, that I said they have to uncomplicate this, that there shouldn't be 120 plans, because it freezes these seniors. And they see all this stuff on TV, and it's so confusing, and they can't get a grasp on it. Or maybe they've run into a unscrupulous agent who moved them plans to something that wasn't in their best benefit, and now they're afraid to move again, but they're in a plan that's not going to be competitive next year or has these major changes, and they don't know about it. So there's a couple things, if you have some older parents or neighbors or relatives, that, number one, you should maybe check with them, maybe with us, to make sure they're not on a plan that's going to give some surprise, a big shock of $600 or $1,800 bill next year. And number two, what's very important is that basically a lot of people can enroll in Advantage plans all year round, okay? And there's still an opportunity beginning of next year for people to change plans, which means the deceptive practices and the unscrupulous and unethical practices from agents don't stop. and that if they get your parents on the phone or your neighbors or your aunt or uncle
They
on the
can still
phone,
switch even after the period.
we get it almost every day. We meet somebody who had called one of those phone numbers or even been solicited, who even got a call unsolicited.
Now, you still have an opportunity if one of those folks, that probably depending on the plan that they're in, might have got solicited within the last couple of months to possibly move them back over to a better plan.
You could claim agent error or agent fraud or that kind of thing and get them moved back to the plan that they had possibly. But there is another opportunity for people to correct mistakes. Or if you didn't move and you should have, if you're one of those people with the deductible and you can't afford it, to move to a plan that had a lower deductible or didn't have a deductible or maybe even doesn't have that 25%, that's might still be possible to do that. And definitely starting in January, there's another opportunity for that. But, I think it's important for, again, and it shouldn't be like this, Brian. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the first hour, that it shouldn't be this confusing, especially for 80-year-olds. You asked me one thing I think I would do if they put me in charge. I would probably say, at age 82, maybe, that I would say it's Medicaid.
Yeah.
For everyone.
For everybody, yeah.
That means you get Medicare, only it's going to pay 100%.
Yeah.
And that you don't have to go out and buy a supplement or an Advantage plan, that maybe it would just be your Medicare now goes from 80-20 to basically
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
That just so people don't have to do this at age 82. That's one thing that we could do. Another thing we could do is eliminate the prescription drug deductibles.
Yeah.
For seniors. I mean, it's great. We don't have it in almost in any other sector of insurance. It's just this Medicare population. But you need to help your aging parents, neighbors, relatives understand what they can expect, and like I said, to make sure that they're not getting talked out of their plan that might be good. And people with supplements who don't, again, we talk about Medicare and Medicare supplements, people with that are the only set of people who don't have to deal with these, authorizations and having claims denied or, having to jump through hoops to get their care.
And it really isn't that hard, too. Obviously, we're coming up on Christmas, coming up soon. Everybody's going to get together with the family. Not that hard to say, hey, Mom and Dad, what plan are you guys on for coming up? Do you know if this provides this? And actually, my parents were the same way recently, because when the whole situation, which we're going to talk about, the Uniontown Hospital came about a couple of weeks ago, I made a phone call to them and say, hey, what kind of Medicare plan do you have? Do you have Highmark Medicare? They said, yeah. Do you realize you're not going to be able to use the Uniontown Hospital? No, we didn't know that. What do? They called your office.
Yes. And so to find out what card that your parents show at the hospital, or cards, show me what you show when you go to your doctor, mom or dad, auntie, uncle, neighbor who you go in to spend some time with over Christmas. Let me see it. And then next year, you need to check on that every 2 to 3 months. Show me the card that you have.
Yeah.
It better be the same one. And if it's not the same one, there's a good chance that somebody called them and solicited them and says, oh, my gosh, you don't want that plan. You only get $150 for a pair of glasses. I got a plan over here to give you $400.
Now, what's the best way for them to know? Somebody like, even somebody like me that might not know the 80 different Medicare plans that are out there, what's the best way to know if your loved one is going to be on a good plan?
You got to call us.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to call us and say, look, this is their card. There's a number that starts with an H. It's a plan ID number.
Okay.
And then we can match that plan ID number up,
and make sure that they're on the right.
And make sure and say, oh, wow, oh, boy, you do have the plan that's got the $1,800 hospital copay, for $6 more a month or $9, or whatever, a few dollars more. We can eliminate that and make sure it's only $250 or $350.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that is the one with both the $600 deductible and the 25%. Maybe we can get mom and dad put on PaceNet. We did that for so many people that came in and oh man, well, you got the deductible. First thing what's your income?
Yeah.
It's this. Great. Let's just put you on PaceNet.
We don't have to worry about it.
We don't have to worry about it. That eliminates that deductible. That eliminates that 25% right off the bat. We don't have to switch you. You like your plan. It's worked for you well. You don't want to change, or no, we don't qualify. Well, here's the other option. Here's one that doesn't have a $600 deductible. It's, $200, and then it's not 25%. It's the same copay as you had before, if that works for you.
And I would probably think in most situations, even if somebody sees that a neighbor or loved one or family member is on the wrong plan over Christmas, you could probably still get them taken care of during the beginning of January.
Yes, we can. And make sure, like here's the thing. if we just found out in January, they came to see us January 3rd, and they're on Eliquis, and well, we haven't filled it yet. Is there any way we can get through to February before we fill it? Because if we fill it now, it's going to be $650 because you have that deductible plus you have to pay a little bit extra. Can we somehow finagle and get through to February 1st when we can put them on a plan where that deductible is not going to come into play? Things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, definitely, we're going to be open between, Christmas Day and New Year's Day. We're going to be open. That's a good time if you're visiting your parents. We're going to be open on the 23rd and a couple days
next Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be open that day. I mean, if just sense, give us a call at the office, and my mom, my dad, my neighbor, my aunt, my uncle have this plan. Can you tell me about it?
You guys are a lot easier to get to now with that bridge open again too.
Yes, we are. If you want to, and you know what? Now you can't. I do want to invite people, and I don't say that often enough. You don't need an appointment this time of year. Once we're out of the busy season, basically, which is after December 15th, you can walk into the office, and there's going to always be somebody. We have somebody we have a walk-in person, they're called. And so, we don't schedule that person appointments all day long. So, that person is available in case somebody walks in. But there's almost never an occasion where you could walk in and walk in and tell Deb at the front desk, what your concerns are, and somebody can't sit down with you right then and there. Now, during the busy season, it's a little bit tougher. But, from basically other than October 1st to December 15th, you could walk in the office anytime and get some help and ask some questions, or just give us a call and, hey, I'm just calling to make sure I got the right plan. Can I talk to somebody about it? 5 minutes is all it'll take. If you can look on your card and you can tell us what that plan ID is, we can tell you in 5 minutes whether you're good to go. And most people who call Brian, probably 75% are.
Yeah.
But that means 1 in every 4 people
That's still a lot of people out there. Yeah.
So there's a pretty good, there's a reasonable chance that that your parents, aunts, uncles, neighbors are, either A, don't have a plan that's covering them well enough if they're hospitalized or they need medications. What happens a lot, what we discovered with the Uniontown Hospital thing, Brian, was so many people were overpaying in premiums that didn't need to be.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a very big blessing for them, because we had people that were paying, $180 and $225 and even $300 a month for Medicare Advantage plans that didn't provide them any better coverage than the plans that are less than $50. And so it was a kind of a call to shop, because they just hadn't done it in so long. They just had fallen into this, kind of been lulled to sleep that, they had this wonderful plan. Meanwhile, they were just overpaying for it. I mean, I can't even tell you. The first time we were at the hospital and I did the seminar over there to talk about it, I met like 10 people that were grossly overpaying. And I'm talking like overpaying by $2,500 a year.
Wow.
Married couples that were overpaying $5,000 a year, that were going to basically get to keep access to WVU Uniontown and lower their premiums by $2,500 to $5,000.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Gain some extra benefits they weren't getting with their plans. And again, going back to the first hour and the frustration of health insurance, how in the world is our oversight supposed to be protecting consumers, allowing Medicare Advantage plans to charge people $250, say, for a plan that doesn't provide as good of benefits or as good a copays possibly, or has more out-of-pocket costs than a plan that costs $25?
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason, it seems like, to what the plans cost to the actual benefits they receive. Because like you've even said this before, a lot of times people think, I have a platinum plan, it means it's the best, or I have a gold plan and I'm paying $300 a month, so I have to have everything covered, but it's not necessarily that way at all.
What we were taught, especially our parents and grandparents, Brian, right? We're taught that you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And that, I've heard my friends say they have zero premium plans, or they pay, $20 or whatever they pay, and there's got to be something that they don't get that's not covered.
Yeah.
Like they might not be covered if they need a heart surgery. No, that's not. It's not how it works. It's one of the only things in life you don't get what you pay for necessarily.
And you wouldn't think that going in unless you're actually educated
and it's
about
not fair. Like, we have to fix that part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, again, if you were put me in charge, every Advantage Plan company will only be allowed to offer 4 plans in each region that they're in. Okay? They could offer a plan that doesn't come with drug coverage. They could offer a zero premium plan. They could offer a mid-range plan. and a high-end plan, zero.
And it seems like most employer groups,
right.
If they're offered to their employees,
right.
you're going to maybe have 3 or 4 different tiered plans. You're not going to have 180.
That's all it should be. And you would need to prove that your $50 plan provides better benefits and better value than the zero plan.
Yeah.
And your $100 plan would have to offer better benefits than the $50 plan. Yeah. And when you sent that in, there's 4 plans.
Yeah.
And it'd be so much easier for people
than what we're dealing with now.
Than what we're dealing with now, where there's literally, I don't even know, Brian. I'm going to guess that in Western Pennsylvania there's 150 Medicare Advantage plans. When I first started doing this in 2008, there was about 12.
Yeah. And out of those 150, how many would you recommend?
I can count them on 2 hands.
Yeah.
Maybe less than 2 hands.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a hand and a half. There's 6 to 10 plans out of the 150 that we consider are worth your time.
And the problem is, if somebody's going in on their own trying to weed through that, chances are they're going to choose a bad plan.
Yeah, or like I said, your plan started good 10 years ago,
yeah.
and it was in one of those 4 plans that we might recommend back in 2010.
Yeah.
And you just kept it because it worked for you in 2011 when you had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And you got a bill for $100. And today that plan is, however much money, and if you're hospitalized, it costs you $1,200 today.
Yeah.
And it's not giving you the same extra benefits that a new plan that was introduced since then. And, there's just a lot of stuff that can be cleaned up. So I think, as we're outside of the enrollment period, that you definitely, my message is if you have older parents, relatives, neighbors, people you go to church with, keep an eye on them.
Yeah, we're talking to Aaron Zolbrod from the health insurance store in Connellsville. If you want to give us a phone call, 724-438-4593. That's 724-438-4593. You can also call Aaron's office at 724-603-3403. That's 724-603-3403. And again, if folks have not been paying attention over the last couple of months, the Uniontown Hospital did announce that starting in mid-2025, they're no longer going to accept Highmark Medicare plans, and there are still some options out there if you have a plan that is not going to be taken at the hospital in mid-2025, even though we're past that December 7th deadline, to probably switch to a plan that is going to be accepted at the hospital, correct?
Yeah, and I think it's important because you said something, Brian, and this is where it gets confusing, as you mentioned that the hospital
correct, not WVU Medicine in Morgantown, just
right.
The hospital.
The Uniontown Hospital will be out of network July 1st, but the doctors that we have scattered around that have offices that say WV Uniontown are out of network January 1st.
Okay.
And so I'm a little concerned. A couple things. You said your parents didn't know that you
correct.
had to call.
I had to let them know.
I guarantee there's still others people
yeah.
that don't know.
Yeah.
And there's also been this thing that they're saying, oh, we have till July 1st. Well, what are you going to do if you're in the middle of the year?
And you're not going to be able to switch then.
Right. And you're not going to be able to switch then. And then again, these doctors who are going to be out of network starting the 1st, which means if you have an HMO, period, they can't take it because they're not going to get reimbursed. You'd have to pay yourself. Now,
that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Right. A PPO. And here's something about PPOs that a lot of people don't understand is that PPO does not mean you can go anywhere you want, whenever you want, like you can if you're in network, okay? A PPO means you can leave the network if, A, the provider agrees to take it, agrees to take your plan, and there could be a little higher cost sharing for you. You could have to pay a little bit more money. So my understanding is WV Uniontown is agreed to accept the PPOs, but here's my concern. If they have a hard time getting reimbursed because now they're not an in-network provider, they're out of network, or if they start to get burst even at a lower, the whole dispute comes from that the hospital's not getting it's the lowest contract they had, meaning for the same service, the same code that they submit, the Highmark Advantage plan was paying them less than the competitors. A significant amount less, from what I understand. So that's where the whole dispute starts. What if Highmark decides they're not even going to pay them that much? And now that they're an out-of-network provider, there's no contract.
Yeah.
So in Uniontown, I think they want to help their patients by not saying, no, we're not going to see you. But what if what if Highmark even pays them less, and then they have to say, well, we just can't do it anymore? Now we're not going to be able to accept it.
Yeah.
Again, just because you had a PPO, the only time that a provider must accept it is in an emergency. You go to the emergency room and they have to stabilize you. That you've got to be treated whether you're in network or out of network. But on voluntary stuff, MRIs, CAT scans, a voluntary surgery.
And once they probably stabilize you, they're going to end up shipping you, whether it's to Morgantown or Pittsburgh or somewhere else.
And so, again, I don't want this to be taken on I'm hoping that that it gets straightened out.
I agree, too.
I am confident that at some point.
But as of now, we have to go with the facts that are on the table.
Correct.
That's the fact that they're not going to be in network.
Correct. So, again, you basically have until the end of March. Really, everybody does.
Yeah.
That if you wanted to kind of hold out, if you had a high mark and you were just kind of holding out and you were going to use the PPO because that was one of the most popular plans was a PPO.
Now, how much of a difference? So the folks, let's say you realize that you're on that, even like my parents' plan, for instance, and you end up switching them, how much of a difference in cost and maybe change in benefits elsewhere from switching to something else?
Not much.
Yeah.
I mean, the plans are still really relative. They're still competitive within these three companies.
It's not like you're going to lose a ton of benefits or pay a lot more or anything else.
I mean, more people than not are doing better because they had a plan they were overpaying for that wasn't competitive.
Yeah.
So more people that we met were actually better off. They were getting better benefits at a lower price.
Yeah.
Now, those who had the most competitive high mark advantage plans had really one of the best plans that had, low copays across the board, really good extras, and low premiums. So those people
basically, if it's somebody maybe in your northern tier that isn't going to come down here and use it, it's probably a good plan to stick with if you have no choice at all to use, use the hospital.
It's definitely the one plan, the one most popular plan that the well-chosen plans are, some of our favorite plans overall that we recommend quite often to our clients. And those people who had to switch, they might miss a little something here or there, but it's nothing to get worked up about. It's
now,
nothing
are you actually seeing this? Obviously, you guys have an office in Pittsburgh, and you mentioned you service multiple states around the country. Are you seeing other hospitals run into these situations with groups like Highmark?
Oh, it's happening all over the place. It's we had a show about this on this. I think Bill hosted it. We had a show on this.
Yeah.
This is not an isolated incident. This is happening all over the country, and it's coming to light again with the United. We're just keep going back to this.
I'll come back to United Healthcare.
Yeah,
it goes in full circle.
I just read an article today that there's a hospital in is it Minnesota? Maybe is it up north fighting with Aetna?
Yeah.
The contract's coming. They agreed to extend it to the end of February, but they're both saying they're way far apart on reimbursement rates. It's happening all over the country. It's happening in Florida. I had clients in Florida that their hospital in was it Flagler County? It's up north in St. Augustine. Their hospital in that county, I forget what county it is, said we're not taking. It was United, I believe.
Do you almost see a point? Obviously, I don't think anybody wants more government involvement than what we already have, but do you feel like it might help in certain areas to have general reimbursement rates based on the cost of living in a certain area that are maybe set by somebody? I think it could
just be set by Medicare.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is what Medicare reimburses, that it's going to be reimbursed. Every insurance company is going to be reimbursed at 1.3 times or whatever it happens to be. Or
it would make things, again, a lot
100%.
easier. It would do away with a lot of these conflicts they end up having.
I mean, that's listen, I think everything and anything's got to be on the table to get this right. And some people aren't like this. I'm a proponent for Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not socialized medicine.
Yeah.
Necessarily. It's one thing that Medicare does well is enrolls people and they pay claims. Okay? That's what Medicare does really, really well. And they pay the hospitals and the doctors in a timely fashion. If we had Medicare for all, the doctors could get rid of a lot of administrative people. The hospitals could get rid of people who are constantly chasing money, right? Like however many people that WV Uniontown employs to just chase money from insurance carriers. And that doctor who's got to chase the authorization, right, and follow up with it and submit the appeal and all this other stuff, right, that those doctors could eliminate that burden. Then they might not be able to need to get reimbursed as much. That's another problem is reimbursement rates for doctors and hospitals. That's what they're fighting over because they're to cover administrative costs.
Yeah.
So if we could eliminate a lot of those administrative positions, we might not need to reimburse
as high. Yeah.
And if we didn't need to reimburse as high, we could keep premiums down. And it just kind of settles in and takes its place.
They need to have you in some of these high-level board meetings.
Brian, I'm going to tell you, I wish there was somebody in D.C. or somebody I would, in 2 seconds, and I've said this, I would drop what I'm doing. I would go to D.C., and I would love to work on a solution from what I see from the consumer end of things. Like, I could be, they need to get somebody.
They almost have to have people from different sectors.
You have to have somebody like
Carrie,
the CEO of WV Uniontown. You got to have a guy like me who's dealing with it at the ground level with the consumer.
Patients,
You got to have the insurance company.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody that's in Medicare. You got to have doctors who are, the doctors who are dealing with this. Nurses.
Yeah.
Nurses. They see a lot of stuff that none of us see.
Because they're the ones that probably have 95% of the hands-on with the patients all the time.
They're hearing the patient crying because they can't get this care, and they're hearing the parents upset because their doctor wants this infusion therapy or this drug to be injected that's being denied while they're in the hospital. We've dealt with that.
Yeah.
So all of those people need to be involved and sit down and say, let's come up with a solution, and I think possibly Medicare for all is one of them. They're talking. I mean, there's some dispute that Dr. Oz, who was appointed by Trump to be the CMS, he's a big fan of Medicare Advantage plans, which is something that people are not happy with. That can be really a lot of times denying and delaying this care.
Yeah.
And so
it's gonna be interesting to see how that all shakes out too.
They're also saying that Medicare Advantage costs taxpayers, I just read a report, 23% more than what somebody on original Medicare costs. And that wasn't the way it was supposed to be.
No.
It was
and they're all about trying to reduce the cost and overspending of,
that's
of
be
medicine
super
and the budget and everything else. So.
And I think one thing I'm going to tell people that I think something a lot of people might want to consider, and you can do this from January 1st to March 31st, is you can go from an Advantage plan to a supplement. And knowing what you're seeing now on the press that private insurance is getting delay, deny.
Yeah, dispose.
I never understood that part of the 3 Ds. But
I think the last one is you're trying to get rid of somebody who's in power.
Okay.
So that's basically.
But as far as delay and deny care, if you don't want to be in a situation where that happens to you, and if you want to be in a situation, a lot of people say, "Well, I'll never get sick, so I never go to the doctor." Well, until you don't.
Yeah.
I never go to the doctor until you do.
Yeah.
I never had cancer until you do.
Yeah.
You never had a fire at your house until you have one.
Yeah.
And that's why you carry the insurance in case you do. You might want to consider moving from an Advantage plan to a supplement and avoiding ever having care delayed or denied and dealing with some of this network stuff, because those people who have Medicare in a supplement,
they're dealing with it all the time.
They never have to worry.
Oh, the ones that don't have it. I
right.
got you.
If you have Medicare in a supplement, you didn't care what happened between Highmark and Uniontown Hospital.
Yeah.
We didn't care what happened 6 years ago when UPMC and Highmark were butting heads.
Because you weren't affected by it.
Because you weren't affected because I could take Medicare.
Yeah.
There is a hospital system, I believe it's in North Carolina, who said we are no longer taking any Advantage plans. Not just one company, which is what's happening all over the country. We're not taking United. We're not taking Humana. We're not taking Aetna. We're not taking Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, or in this case, Highmark. There was a hospital system that said we're not taking any of them.
Yeah.
We're taking original Medicare only.
So what's the process if somebody wants to switch over?
I mean, they come in. I mean, the unfortunate part about this is they're medically underwritten.
Yep.
Meaning that if you started with an Advantage plan, you want to go back to a supplement, you've got to be relatively healthy. But the first step is there's a series of medical questions you have to answer no to, if you can answer no to them. And you'd be surprised, they're looking for the major stuff, and they're looking for it somewhat recently. You could have had a heart attack 4 years ago and still pass underwriting.
This would be heart attack, cancer.
You could have had one 4 years ago and be cancer-free for 3 years. You qualify to get
How about
a
folks that have
supplement.
diabetes, for instance?
As long as you don't have retinopathy or neuropathy.
Okay.
you can usually pass underwriting. So, again, this is where a quick phone call. And listen, nobody says you have to, because a lot of people get sticker shock, Brian.
Yeah.
Because they're going from paying under, around $20 for a plan to paying $100.
They can be beneficial in the long run, though.
We're big fans of supplements. Listen, we got a lot of clients on Advantage plans, but we're big fans of supplements because we're tired of dealing with this. We know that our people are not going to be denied care. The last thing I want to have happen, if I think I may have cancer, is have to wait for an insurance company to prove a biopsy or a scan. That is time that that cancer could be metastasizing. And I want to be able, if my doctor says, Aaron, and unfortunately I don't have this luxury because I'm not on Medicare.
Yeah.
But if I am on Medicare, I'm the only demographic that has this choice to get Medicare and get my health insurance, where my doctor can say, Aaron, I want you to get an MRI, go to the 3rd floor. We're going to call them and tell them you're on your way, or go back out in the lobby. We're going to send the people from the lab out here to get you an MRI today. I want you to go to the oncology center. We're going to tell them you're coming. We're going to get a biopsy today. That's what I want to be able to do. I can't, but if you're on Medicare, you have that option, but only if you have a supplement. So, you want to avoid this stuff. We have that 3-month window to consider that.
Also coming up on the end of the year, mentioned the ACA plans. I was actually talked to somebody this past week. I was surprised. They were probably in their late 20s, early 30s, said they didn't have insurance that I knew. And there's still plenty of opportunities for folks to basically get insurance and not.
That's
really
shocking nowadays.
Yeah.
It's shocking because really, for all the bad things we've said about insurance today, health insurance, and there's a lot bad to say. Trust me, I've been in the business 18 years now. We did set this system up now with the American Rescue Act and the which raised income limits and raised subsidies. I think we're at the point where nobody should be going without. Because if you're poor, you get medical assistance, which is no cost. If you're in that 138% to 300% poverty level, or even 400%, you're getting a nice subsidy that really does make health insurance affordable. And if you don't qualify for a subsidy, that's because you make, $120,000, $200,000, and
you can probably afford to pay for health insurance then.
When it gets to $1,000 a month per person, it's getting even for
it.
Somebody that makes $120,000, that's getting a little dicey. But you can probably more easily afford it. So I don't think there's anybody, or you're getting it from your employer, you're getting it through the VA. Really, for those 22-year-olds to go without insurance, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can get insurance for a couple dollars, or for under $50 or under $100 with the Affordable Care Act with medical assistance. Those people might even qualify for medical assistance and don't even know it and just didn't.
It's a lot of people just not, as you said, not paying attention to what's going on all the time. So what are some of the options we're getting here in late December? If you don't have health insurance, you need to change your ACA plan.
You got till January 15th to get it.
Okay.
Or you will be without for the entire year. And I've heard this. Well, if I have to go to the emergency room, they're forced to treat me. They're forced to stabilize you. If you tore your ACL because you tripped on the curb, or you stepped on your kid's toy.
Yeah.
You had an accident on a ladder, and you shredded your knee and tore your MCL, ACL, and you needed screws and stuff put in. They don't do that surgery at the emergency room. They're going to make sure you're not, they're going to give you some pain meds.
Yeah.
They're going to stabilize that leg. They're going to put it in a cast or in a brace, and they're going to say, call your orthopedist on Monday. And you're going to call an orthopedist, and they're going to say, what insurance company do you have? And you're going to say, I don't have any.
They're going to hang up the phone?
Well, they're going to say, an initial consultation is $280.
Yeah.
And you're going to go see them and say, well, you need an MRI. And they're going to say, well, the MRI is $2,000. You need to pay us now. We're not giving you the MRI.
Yeah, until we get paid.
Until we get paid.
Yeah.
And that MRI reveals you have shredded your knee and need screws and an ACL. Whatever.
It's going to be a 5-figure.
Yes, and it's $80,000 or $120,000.
Yeah.
They're not operating you and putting you on a payment plan for $120,000.
Yeah. Yeah, you got problems.
You got problems. So I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, or you might think. And you should have insurance, and you got till January 15th to get it if you don't have any.
Again, we're talking to Aaron Zolbrod from the health insurance store in Connellsville, 724-438-4593. If you want to sneak in a last-minute call, 724-438-4593. You can also reach Aaron at his office at 724-603-3403. That's 724-603-3403. Anything else, Aaron, you want to discuss? We have about 8 minutes or so left.
Yeah, I want to mention that I have a Facebook group. It's called Ask the Medicare Specialist. That if you do have relatives, if you do have, parents, aunts, uncles, neighbors.
And it's growing, too.
Yeah, that you can join that group. We have 4 weekly series that we put on that Facebook page. We have something called Truth, Tips, and Tricks, where we talk about, how you can kind of avoid situations that are going to be costly or, what you need to know. And these are things for your parents or your aunts or uncles. We have a Feel Good Friday where we had somebody, these are all written by our agents and myself, where they had a client come in that, got something denied, had a claim denied, or had a medication that wasn't covered that was real expensive, that we found them an alternative on how we're going to lower that cost. Or we discovered that they were paying $250 too much for their premium, and what we did for them to lower that, and what their circumstances were. We have something called Aaron's Advice, where I just give a quick little something that comes into my head, and I type up and hey, remember this or do that or watch out for this. And then we have a client spotlight where we share, one of our favorite clients and something about them that, is an interesting client or a real loyal client. And then I put my columns up there as well that I write, that appear actually now in the Connellsville paper.
Oh, nice.
In the Daily Courier on Tuesdays, and in the Post-Gazette print edition on Sundays, and their Thursday digital edition. But we put those columns, and they're very, very educational. That's what they're designed to do, where somebody actually asks me a question, and I answer it, and you can find that column there as well. So that's something, if you are on Medicare, or if you know somebody that is on Medicare, that's a real good place to educate yourself on a weekly basis. All kinds of little tips and tidbits and stuff that will be helpful to either you or your loved ones. That's called Ask the Medicare Specialist on Facebook. You can obviously just search that if you go on.
Pretty
your
easy
Facebook.
to find. Yep.
Or you can go on our website, and there's a little blue banner on the top of the page to join the group. You could just go to getyourbestplan.com and click on that blue banner to join that group as well.
Any other deadlines, again, folks need to worry about here going into the end of the year?
No, there's no deadlines, but when in doubt, just give us our office a call. Don't ever think that you've got a problem that there's not a possible solution to. It is very rare that someone calls us with a dilemma that we just can't find some relief to.
And we've seen that on the show, too, when the folks have called in. You always seem to have a pretty good answer for them in a way to try to help them out.
Every once in a while, man, if maybe every 25th person I talk to that comes to me with a dilemma, I can't, it's usually an expense. They can't afford this or they can't afford that. They can't. It's not very often that we can't figure out a way to get what they need to get done with some sort of program or charitable organization, or just a switching plans, or something of that nature. So don't think that, if you think you've exhausted all options, or even before you start doing that, you can call our office. If it's anything remotely related to health, health insurance, you can always call us and pick our brain. And you've got well over 100 years of experience between, myself at 18 years in the business, Lonnie, who started a year after me, Jennifer, who's been doing it, I think, 10 years, and Sadie's been with us 10 years, and even, our lowest tenured, Artrell and Tony, who've been with us now 4 and 5 years. I mean, you've got literally well over 100 years of experience between all of us, and we've got a lot of knowledge, and if there's something that we don't know, we'll just make phone calls till we figure it out.
And you guys sell life insurance, too.
We do sell life insurance. Maybe someday we'll have a show more dedicated to that. It's a product I completely believe in. You talked about if you have loved ones. If you have kids that have kids, if you have a child that's married, and if they have a kid, they need life insurance.
Yeah.
Period, end of story. Unless they're wealthy, if you have a child that is married and has a kid, or even if they don't have kids yet, they need life insurance.
It's probably cheap at their age, too.
It is so inexpensive. Drag their butt down by the ear, get them life insurance. And one thing people don't know, you can buy a life insurance policy for your kids and you be the owner of the policy.
Okay. Probably. I don't think I knew
You
that
don't
either.
have to necessarily have them even in the building.
So you could buy a policy basically for your own kids.
And pay for it and maybe $20 for a $100,000 or $200,000 policy.
Now, obviously, that would be a plan. They wouldn't have to go for any kind of medical underwriting or anything like that. Just
There's
be a
some
basic
underwriting,
plan,
but most people in their late 20s, early 30s are so healthy they're going to zip right through underwriting. That it might, you wouldn't even need them down there. Or sometimes you do need to get them, grab them by the ear, like, the old school, and drag them down. You're going to sit down here. You're going to get some life insurance. It's the price of 3 Starbucks coffees a month. It's the price of one stop at McDonald's for your 2 kids, to protect yourself in case mom or dad happens to pass away.
Yeah, people need to look at it like that because I don't think they have any hesitation taking their kids to go and get Happy Meals. But when you think about it from life insurance,
it's just something that kids 28, 30 years old, they just say they're going to do it, that they never do.
It's not high on their priority list for whatever reason.
It's just like you're taking care of your parents. If you're a parent, you need to get your kids, to make sure that your kids and your grandkids are protected, in some sort of accident or, premature death. I mean, it's just a reality. So we do that, and we've been doing it for quite some time now. We're good at it too.
Well, Aaron, again, we're wrapping up the show here for 2024. You guys will be back January the 6th of 2025, either yourself or Tony DeRoma in studio.
Yep, and we appreciate all the support from the community as always. We realize the health insurance store only exists because of the people in Fayette County and the surrounding counties, and they've been so loyal to us, and we really appreciate it. We hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and we hope that 2025 is just a fantastic year for everybody.
Well, enjoy your Christmas and New Year's season. Again, we'll see you back here on January the 6th.
Thanks, Brian.
That's Aaron Zolbrod from the health insurance store in Connellsville. Again, Aaron's on the first and third Monday of every month from 1:15 until 3 o'clock here on WMBS Uniontown. Aaron will, again, talk with you coming up on January the 6th of 2025. If you want to call his office, the number is 724-603-3403. That's 724-603-3403. TJ DeStefano up next with the local news at 3:05. That'll follow CBS News here at the top of the hour on WMBS Uniontown.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Cammie McCormick. 3 people are dead and 6 wounded in a school shooting in Wisconsin.
A sad day for our community and for our